Environmental justice is racial justice. Disadvantaged populations, including communities of color, will be left behind in the clean energy transition if policy does not explicitly address long-standing inequities. These communities are also more likely to be harmed by the effects of our carbon-intensive economy, such as local vehicle-related air pollution. In September 2020, California Governor Gavin Newsom announced an ambitious executive order requiring all new passenger vehicles sold in the state to be zero emission by 2035. Many zero-emission vehicles are now commercially available, but they still make up less than 10% of all vehicles on the road in California. This slow adoption is driven in part by a shortage of charging infrastructure. Consumers frequently cite a low availability of charging stations as a barrier to buying an electric vehicle. In California, EV infrastructure development has been largely driven by legislative mandates, regulated by agencies such as the California Energy Commission and California Public Utilities Commission, and primarily carried out by investor-owned utilities. However, given the financial challenges that these utilities currently face as a result of COVID-19 and California's recent wildfires, the long-term stability of their charger installation programs is uncertain. By allowing investor-owned utilities to solely drive the growth of EV infrastructure in California, we will likely see a slower and unequal adoption of EVs across the state. Bridging the wealth gap for EV adoption will require a holistic approach that intentionally targets the long-standing marginalization and barriers to clean tech adoption that low-income communities have faced in California. I recommend several measures that can be led by California lawmakers and state agencies. First, state agencies must update California's building codes to increase standards for charging stations in multi-unit dwellings. Studies have shown that multi-unit dwellings will house 120,000 EVs by 2025, with a projected gap of 66 to 80,000 charging stations to meet this need. Currently, California requires all new buildings with more than 17 units to implement EV charging for 3% of parking spaces. To fill the gap by 2025, all new multi-unit buildings, regardless of size, must install EV charging in 10% of parking spaces. Second, lawmakers must work with local municipalities and utilities to expand curbside EV charging stations. There is a unique opportunity to use the existing electrical infrastructure provided by streetlights and power poles to power curbside charging stations, a technique that has already been piloted in cities such as London and Los Angeles. The overall savings from energy efficiency and a secondary energy market based on EV charging should make this transition economically appealing for all stakeholders. Third, California must institute a statewide EV charger rebate program for residential and commercial customers to supplement or replace the patchwork of rebates currently available across the state. Like the Clean Vehicle Rebate Program for purchase or lease of eligible zero-emission vehicles, this program could provide financial incentives for not only homeowners, but also for businesses and owners of multi-unit dwellings to install charging stations. This program should be funded upfront by the state, with funds dispersed over time to allow for point-of-sale rebates, an important consideration for middle or lower-income customers. Finally, California lawmakers should provide funding and direct the California Air Resources Board to expand EV sharing programs. To better accommodate the diverse needs of California residents, planning around EVs and charging infrastructure must reflect the rise of vehicle sharing and automated vehicles. Regional hybrid and electric car sharing projects already exist in Sacramento, Los Angeles, Santa Cruz, and the San Joaquin Valley. Increased funding at the state level will allow local municipalities to implement and expand similar programs in their communities. These policies are necessary to ensure that California's clean energy transition remedies the long-standing inequities across race and income that have been perpetuated by a carbon-intensive economy. Whatever actions that policymakers decide to take, EV deployment and infrastructure programs should be designed closely with public utilities responsible for service and local community stakeholders to ensure feasible outcomes that are rooted in environmental justice.